Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Adrian Trito, and boy, we had a great week. Let's get into it. Okay, guys, welcome back. This is a couple days after the derby, and a couple days also after the victory against Lecce at home. So let's recover and talk about all that's happened, because especially in the recent couple of hours, a lot of other news broke out regarding our direct city rivals, and also a certain player in the team. But let's start about the derby and talk about it very quickly. What can I say? It was a very, again, like I predicted, a very cagey match, a very tense match, a match with a lot of physicality, a lot of late fouls, a lot of drama, a lot of red cards. It was a game in which we basically had to win. You just can't lose to Roma. You can't lose to your city rivals in any way, shape, or form. And we won the match. Thought I played a pretty solid game overall. Me, it's most an entertaining game in all honesty, but it was a game which, again, we had to win, and we did win. So let's talk about a little bit, about the key players. I thought everyone did their part in that game, particularly Tati, Guendouzi, and Vecino, who were very, very strong in that game. I thought they were very fantastic, especially Vecino giving the heel flick to Castellanos. Castellanos gets the penalty kick, and then we score and we win the game. There's Zaccagni, and thought Zaccagni was the man of the match. Did very well. Also, we had Mandas making his debut in this game, and he made some very critical saves. What can I say? He did some very important things. Obviously, he was a little bit shaky in ball distribution, kind of made some awkward passes because, especially making your debut in the derby, it's not an easy game to do it. And I thought he handled the role decently well. He made, again, a critical save at the end of the game, or two critical saves at the end of the game, and came up big. What can I say? Again, we beat Roma without Ciro, without Luis, without Ivan, our usual key cornerstone players. And I just thought that we played a overall very professional game. We looked good, and it was a game which we were able to win. And we took all the bragging rights, and now we go on to play against Juventus in the semifinal round. I think it's a semifinal. No, it's a semifinal round. Look, it's a Coppa Italia matches. They'll probably be exhausting because we got a lot of games coming up, and which we'll get into that later too. But, again, the team has looked good. Looked a lot better. We're playing better. We're winning games now. That's the thing. Despite not playing that well or whatever it may be, we're still winning games, and that's the sign of a productive and potentially consistent team that makes the top four every single year. So we're showing good signs. We're growing. We're improving. And the team is overall you can see they're meshing well together. You see how they celebrate after the derby win, especially how we celebrate after the Lecce game where we went ballistic, we went crazy, especially because Falcone kind of winded a bunch of our players up, and then Rovella had the famous wave at him now. That's going to be an iconic moment from Rovella's career when we look back on it. But, so let's get to the Lecce game. We didn't play that well, honestly, in the first half. We struggled a lot. The team overall wasn't very cohesive. The field too in the Olimpico needs to get level to the ground because it's just very uneven. The ball pops up way too much. And let's talk about the key performance. I thought Rovella had a great game. I thought he's been having great games for a while now. I thought Guendouzi had a little weaker game in comparison to his other games this year. But again, he's played basically every single minute, every single match that he's been in so far this season, and he continues to play with incredible tenacity, incredible energy, and him and Rovella are a great combination because they both cover so much distance, and you can see that when they play for each other, or at least they were able to balance each other out very well. And we saw the reintroduction of Luis Alberto, who had a very clever, very good assist. Gave it to Anderson, who scored the goal, and we won the game. And again, it was just a solid game overall. I thought also Mario Gila had another great defensive performance, man. He cut out so many critical passes in the final third. He made so many critical interceptions and tackles. He's really developing into a very solid piece, a very solid center back, and one for the future. And it's crazy to think about it too, because we thought going into the season, Casale and Romagnoli were the definite starting back line. At this point, I don't think they are. Well, I don't think Casale is. I think he's shockingly down to the 4th spot in the center back role. I think Patrick and Gila are ahead of him. And that's the thing too. Lazio's playing very well in terms of just getting results, and I think that's what's important now. We're winning games professionally. It's a mentality switch, which again we didn't have these mentality switches in the years past. We would be in a game like that against Lecce, we were able to find the goal and score. And now we are, and you can see how the team has constantly, has consistently improved under Maurizio Sarri, because he's now taken the team from being, all right, we're going to play well in the first year and kind of work out the kinks and issues, which he did and then basically last year we did that, became much more defensively solid, scored a lot of goals, and we came finished second in the Scudetto race. Then we started playing more competitions this year. We kind of struggled at the beginning, but now we're winning games professionally, and that's a mentality thing, and that's something Sarri obviously has worked on, and you can see it in the way we played. And I think it has to do with defensive solidity and taking your chances when they come. And I think that's what we're going to have to do for the majority of the games the rest of this year, honestly, because we just need to keep playing like that and, keep doing our job. And right now, the team, I have to be honest with you, is coming together, because now we're seeing all the new players mesh well with the current existing players and the former senior players, the current senior players like Luis Alberto and Immobile. They're all meshing well, and you can see it, because they didn't have that preseason to get adjusted like Maurizio Sarri likes to have, and now they caught up and the team is catching on, and now their depth is beginning to also show its strength with Vecino coming off the bench, Pedro coming off the bench. These kind of players being able to just contribute and help the team, it's coming together very well, so I'm excited in that sense. But there's other things we need to talk about, and I'm going to talk about, obviously, the fact that before I go to the Super Coppa game, I want to talk about something about the Scudetto race, and that is that I said, hey, Udinese is going to make it a tough game for Fiorentina. I thought that Cagliari was going to make a tough game for Bologna, and guess what? They dropped points, both those teams. I said that in the last podcast. I thought it wasn't a good matchup for both those teams. Playing against Cagliari, they're playing for their lives now to make sure they don't get relegated. Cagliari, so that's why Bologna probably struggled, and they lost the game. And then you have Udinese, who's a physical team, and made it a tough game against Fiorentina, who tied nonetheless. And they're now, because of that tie, because of Bologna lost, are 1 point off the top 4. Again, we have some tough games coming up with Napoli, and then with Atalanta following that. Atalanta, Napoli can always be a threat. Particularly Atalanta is probably our biggest threat right now to the top 4. So we need to, along with Fiorentina, obviously. But again, Napoli had a critical game where they came back and won, so they might have some motivation. They come beat us, and we're not going to have Ciro Immobile and Zaccagni do the suspension in that match. And they won't have Kvaratskhelia or Osimhen, because Kvaratskhelia is suspended, and Osimhen's away the AFCON Cup of Nations. Now, that game we have to win, obviously. We just have to keep getting points. You have to keep winning. Especially because we're playing at home, we have to win that game. And the thing is, too, going into that match with Napoli, we have to remember something else. We're going to be without Castellanos, too, without Tati. The front three of Anderson, of Pedro, of Isaacson, and Pedro has not been playing particularly great this year. I think he's going to move on at the end of the year, which you're going to get into that. And also with Anderson, we heard some big news today about his future, which I'll get into that later and discuss what we need to do concerning it. And Isaacson has a bit of an ankle injury still, and we need to start how to talk to him with the staff about his attitude in the game against Lecce, because he got pulled off at halftime. But again, he's young, he's learning, but he played a great ball also on Luis Alberto against Lecce, and we just didn't score. But he's developing. I'm not going to put too much pressure on him. However, I am concerned that we don't have enough forwards, considering the form of one of the forwards, that being Pedro, and also what's going on with Anderson, which I'll just say right now, he signed a contract to go play at Juventus. And apparently him and Lotito had a bit of an argument today when they got in Saudi Arabia or before that, and it's not good, guys. I think that Anderson is probably going to be pushed out the squad, and we need to get a replacement very quickly, which, again, I'll get to that later. But considering that game against Napoli, we're going to have to play the front three, like I just mentioned, Pedro, Isaacson, Felipe Anderson, and I would try Kamadalos as a winger, because he can play there. He played there in the past, and we have to try to see what he can do. And obviously, he's getting paid a lot of money if he doesn't work out, we have to also consider moving on from him too. So look, it's a tough game coming against Napoli. They won't be without their star forwards. We won't be without our star forwards, but it's still a game we have to win. It'll be a cagey match, again, tight match. Both teams are fighting as much as they can, but we need these points because we really can make great dividends this year if we just keep winning the games we have to at home. And then Atalanta, we'll have our team back, hopefully, and we'll see how it goes from there. So the other news, again, the big news I just mentioned, Anderson, about him going to Juventus, and also the big news is that Jose Mourinho has been removed as the head coach from Roma, and now Daniele De Rossi will take over as the head coach. What that does concerning us, well, Roma's going to be in influx now. They're going to be in trouble. They're not going to be... Mourinho was able to produce in terms of defensive solidity or very aggressiveness. They're not going to be like that as much anymore. They'll be aggressive, obviously, I think, still. That was how Daniele De Rossi liked to play as a player. But I just don't see Roma... They're going to be in a moment of transition, basically. So they'll be in a situation where they have to kind of figure out what they're going to be doing with their pieces, how they're going to be improving, how they're going to be getting better, and what they have to do going forward. So I don't know if Roma will be the big threat that they could have been under Mourinho, but you never know. However, I just don't see it happening at this current moment. So there's that. And then now we need to talk about the transfer window, because obviously with the bombshell news that Anderson is going to Juventus at the end of the year, obviously that affects the here and now. And I'll be honest with you, I had a couple of names written down about who we can go get, and the transfer window coming up. So I'll just cut into it really quickly, and that's, we're going to lose probably 4 players this transfer window, or at least not this transfer window, in the summer. That being Kamada, I think, is going to be leaving. I think Pedro is going to be leaving. I think Mauser is going to be leaving. Obviously, Anderson is leaving. So, with him going away, we have to get a couple new players. And I think we need to get a new winger right now, actually, because, look, here's the thing about Lotito. He honored Felipe Anderson before the match against Lecce. If you don't know what was going on, he gave him the 126 jersey for consecutive matches played in a row, and a 300 jersey for games played with Lazio. And now, after honoring him, he kind of, that being Anderson, he just basically says, yeah, I'm going to Juventus. For 500,000 more euros a year. We offered him $3.5 million. He got $4 million from Juventus, so he's going to Juve. And yeah, it could affect the chemistry in the team, and that's what concerns me a little bit. Like, he might throw the whole entire chemistry off, but I hope he's professional enough to stay in. If not, we need to get a winger right now. We need to make a big boy move and go get a winger right this moment, because we're going to be too thin on depth. And just be honest, guys, Anderson was 31 this year. You're asking $3.5 million. He hadn't played all that well this year. Last year he was very good, obviously, but this year he hasn't been the same player. And apparently, what I was reading too, his sister had been talking with Juventus. Who, by the way, his sister is his agent. I've been talking to Juventus since November, December. It seemed like they already had a deal struck up then. Now it's just all been confirmed today. And look, Anderson has been, you can always say, raised by Lazio in a way. He grew up here. He was struggling before, and then, in Santos, he was called, his nickname actually was Sleepy Anderson, because he was a bit inconsistent from so we know how he plays. He came here, he became a very, very good player under Lazio. Then he went to West Ham. He struggled in the third year there, and he struggled at Porto. Then he came back to Lazio, built himself up again, and now he's leaving us and going to Juventus, which I don't know why, if that's a good move for his career. I mean, look, if he wants the money, he can go and take it, but the reason why I'm saying that is because in front of him he still has Chiesa, Vlahovic, Milik, Yildiz, the new Turkish kid, and if he wants to play in that forward role, but again, I don't know how he's going to use them. And the thing is, I know he didn't like playing as a fullback under Simone Inzaghi or as a wingback. So, yeah, I just don't know. I really don't know with Anderson what's going to happen at this point. It could be that Lotito tells Saudi, even though I know Saudi loves the player, but he tells Saudi, listen, he can't play in the team anymore. We need to throw him out. It could be that simple. And that's why I think we have to go get another player this transfer window. And I have a couple names, again, one of them being Wilfred Yonto, who we've been linked to in the past, who I think is a young Italian player, very agile. He's very similar to Pedro in the way he plays, and maybe even a little more explosive. Maybe not as pristine technically, but similar profile of a player, and I think he'd be good to bring in because we have to remember too, guys, at this point with the new law or the removal of the Domito Crescita with the tax breaks given to international players, we have to look at players who are currently in the Serie A right now, who are living through these regular new tax laws, and also Italian players. So we need to go get another player. We need to go get a winger, I think, personally, like right now. We can't, we just, what is it, today's January 16th? Yeah, so we just have to go get another player at this moment. Considering we don't know how Henderson's going to react to it. We don't know what they're going to do, but I personally think he might not be in the team anymore. He might be outcasted from the team. So there's that, and then we have to talk about also the other transfers with Kamada leaving. I know I'm talking very early on about this stuff, guys, but we need to discuss already right now the situation going forward. And I think personally, a couple names I did write down who I'm interested in looking at would be obviously Yonto, Sottil from Fiorentina, Colpani from Monza, Mirandelli from Monza. He's a right back. Colpani is a central attacking midfielder who would probably replace Kamada. Simeone, I think, would be a very good pick, even though it'd be very hard to get away from De Laurentiis, even though he's not very happy there because he plays like 5 minutes a game, it looks like. Samardzic would be another good player to go get for a midfield, but the guy I would really like to get, I know he's had health problems and serious health problems because he had a devastating injury previously, and that was Gaetano Castrovilli. In case you don't know, he was part of the Euro squad that won the Euros back in 2020. A very, very good player. The problem with Castrovilli, again, is the injury history, and maybe we shy away from that, but the guy's a brilliant player, and he would fit perfectly in the Saudi system with the way he plays. What else can I say about Castrovilli? He's a player that his contract expires at the end of this year, or the end of this season. So I would go pick him up. I would honestly go pick him up in a free transfer. He'd be my number one choice if we know the full depth of his injury history. If it's not good, then we just move on, obviously, but based on what I've seen, I think he could be the one who helps us the most right now. Obviously, we have to see how his injuries are, but I think he has the most potential to help this team out right now because he's a true box-to-box midfielder, very technical, very, very, very fast, good shooter, strong in the tackle. I mean, he just has the characteristics we need. He balanced well with Guendouzi, with Rovella, with these kind of midfielders. And then, too, obviously, we have to consider a new right back because Marusic looks like he's going to leave. I don't know who we're going to go get. I did mention Mirandelli from Monza. I think he'd be interesting attacking fullback, but I'm just not sure who we're going to go get at this point. We do probably need another one. And obviously, with Pedro leaving, probably need to go get another winger. That would be either Sottil, who I would really be happy to take from Fiorentina, but he's not playing that much there either. But if we can't get him, Simeone would be a great shout. I mean, we need to get 2 forwards because we're losing Anderson and Pedro. More than likely, we're losing Pedro too, but we're definitely losing Anderson. We're going to probably lose Kamada, and we're going to lose Marusic. So we have to get another center midfielder, another right back, and 2 forwards. So Simeone, Gnonto, Castrovilli. I don't know who else I would have as the fullback, because that's still up in the air with the fullback position. We might not need one, depending if he goes to the right back position, but Marusic is pretty solid, so we have to find a replacement to him. And it's tricky at this point with the situation going forward in the future transfer window and what we can do right now. Now, the Supercoppa. You see, I don't like this that we're playing this 2 games basically in 3 days. We play Friday and the finals on Sunday. I mean, that's just a recipe for injuries. I don't know why we're doing it, really. I mean, personally, if I'm Maurizio Sarri, I would not put the best team out to win the Supercoppa on the first game against Inter, because it's just... Look, we lose the game, move on, go home. We have far more important games against Napoli, against Atalanta, like I mentioned before, which we have got to win. And we just stay healthy, too. 2 games in 3 days, that's not good, guys. At least that's why I understand. We need to just to not put our best team out in the first game. Personally, I would probably try to keep guys back. Maybe not start with Luis Alberto, not start with Immobile, or Immobile is going to be suspended, but still, maybe you can play Immobile in that game because he won't play against Napoli, but I just don't want to go out there and try to go all out and try to win that game. I really do not, because it's not advantageous, isn't it? Because look, Supercopa. Here's the thing about Supercopa. It's not a trophy that can get you into Europe. It's not going to help us in the long run. So to me, it's kind of, especially because now it's a 2-game. I don't know why they made it 2 games. I mean, to make more money. I mean, really, it's not. And the fact that in Saudi Arabia too. I don't know, man. I think it's just a recipe for potentially disaster, injuries. It's just not good. I don't know why we're doing it, particularly because it's in it's January, the 3rd week of January at this point, 4th week of January. We're over halfway through the season. We're having these games now, considering most of the teams that are in that and all the teams in that competition, us, Fiorentina, Inter, Napoli, we're all still in Europe. So I don't know why we're playing this game in January. I mean, look, the Supercopa should be if you're going to do it in the beginning of the year, before the season even begins. I don't know why we're doing this right now in the middle of the year. It just doesn't make any sense. We call it Supercopa Italiana, but the fact that we're playing in Saudi Arabia, I mean, look, I just don't agree with it at all. And personally, I don't think it's advantageous to the league. Because look, what happens if a big player from, and I hope it does not happen, but what happens if a big player from either Inter, Napoli, or Fiorentina gets hurt? It ruins the chances for us to go compete in Europe. Go further in Europe. That will affect us, guys. We want that 5th spot. We need to get that 5th spot in the Champions League this year. Yeah, it's just not good. It's not a good combination. I don't understand why we're doing this, honestly, and we really need to consider just making a one-off game like it used to be early in the season. Or if you're gonna make it a 2-game set, whatever it is, do it in the beginning of the season. Don't do it right now. So. Yeah, there's that, so I'm frustrated with that. But look, at the end of the day, we're winning games, we're being professional. I know that today was not an advantageous day, it was a bit of a heated day. A lot of controversy happening with Roma, with us, considering how Anderson is now leaving, and now we're going to be going through another transition. And I'm hoping it doesn't affect the chemistry in the locker room. Look, if it does, they have to throw him out of the locker room. Get rid of him, because he's not going to be here. He made his decision, and look, I'm not mad per se, but that's his choice, and I don't want him affecting us. Because Juventus is direct competition. Yes, they're way ahead of us in the points, but they are direct competition. And we will be playing against them in the Coppa Italia. And, we don't want another De Vrij situation again. We really do not need that. We don't need someone giving away a Champions League position like Stefan De Vrij did all those years ago to the team that he would go to, so that they could, and that would be in Inter, so that Inter could go qualify. And it was the last game of the year. Just the whole entire mess. I don't want to go through that again. I really don't, because it just was absolute chaos, and I'm scared that's going to happen with Anderson. He might not push himself. I mean, we need to just make a big move. Not even a big move, just a solid move. Go get another winger, replace him, just say, Anderson, this was your choice. You're going to be sitting out of the team now. As harsh as that may be, it was his decision, guys. It was his decision. I think Lotito offered him, probably, in my opinion, I think he offered him almost too big of a contract, $3.5 million. I think he offered him too much money, personally. He's 31. He's going to be in the decline. He hasn't been consistent. I mean, yeah, I just don't think it was. I think, honestly, this will be a good move for us, because we can use that money and invest it somewhere else and add more depth to the squad. So, at this point, the only fear I have is affecting chemistry, but honestly, I just really hope that we go and invest that money somewhere else, and we use it wisely. Bring another young player in who's hungry, who wants to get improved, because Sarri can raise these players. We're seeing with Isaacson, with Rovella, Guendouzi, with Gila. Bring someone in who's hungry, let him play, and then there we go. So, yeah, at this point, the video is basically going to be over soon, but what I'm just going to conclude with is that I think Lazio overall is still in a good position. We're in the top 4 race. We have Bayern next month. I think that if we can just keep getting these professional victories and build momentum up, we're going to be in a good spot coming to the end of the year. That's what I believe. That's what I hope. And let's see. So, until then, the Curva Nord is out. E sempre Forza Lazio.